It was a Tuesday. The kind of Tuesday that didn't promise anything special. The sun filtered through the curtains just like any other day, and the smell of my mother's coffee drifted from the kitchen like it always did. I had just finished high school 2 months earlier, and life was slow in our small Ohio town. Summer days stretched long and quiet. Working part-time at the gas station, riding my bike past the train tracks, playing cards with friends on the porch. It was all simple, it was all safe, until that letter arrived. The mailbox clanked shut, and I heard my mother call out that the mail had come. I walked outside without thinking. The sun was warm on my neck, the grass freshly cut. I reached into the box, flipping through bills, a magazine, and then I saw it, a plain envelope with my name typed neatly on the front. It had the seal of the Selective Service System. My stomach dropped. I stood there on the porch, fingers trembling, staring at it like it might vanish if I looked away. I already knew what it was. The draft. They had called my number. Uncle Sam wanted me. Back inside, my mom had set out a sandwich and a glass of lemonade. I didn't eat. I sat there in silence. She noticed the envelope in my hand and her eyes shifted, soft worry turning sharp. "Is that?" she asked. I nodded. She sat down beside me, held my wrist. Neither of us spoke. What could we say? The letter said I was to report in 30 days. 30 days. I didn't know what to do with the time. 30 days to say goodbye to everything I thought would last forever. My friends, my girl, the dusty baseball glove in the closet, the record player that played The Temptations. I walked into town that evening. Everything looked different, sharper, more meaningful, like I was seeing it all for the last time. The barber shop, the diner, the gas station where I worked. I passed by Old Man Reed on his porch. He raised a hand and said, "Heard the news, son. Proud of you." I smiled back, but inside I was hollow. The days that followed were a blur of conversations I don't fully remember. People shook my hand, clapped my shoulder. Some gave advice, some said prayers, some just looked away. I wrote a few letters myself, to my girl, to a friend in college. They weren't goodbye letters, just letters from a version of me I knew wouldn't exist much longer. For that evening, I sat in my room staring at the ceiling. The draft letter lay on the nightstand beside me like a weight. I kept rereading it, hoping the words would change. But they never did. 30 days. That was all the time I had. And somewhere in that ticking clock I had to figure out how to tell the people I loved. In the next morning, I found my father outside, fixing the fence. He was always fixing something, tools in hand, brow furrowed, silent but steady. I walked up behind him and stood there for a second too long. He knew. Without looking up, he said, "It came, huh?" "Oh," I nodded, though he couldn't see it. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Yesterday." Oriane, he stopped hammering and straightened his back. "Well," he said, brushing his hands on his jeans. "We knew it might. Doesn't make it any easier." I expected him to say more, to offer advice, or maybe tell me about his own time in Korea. But he didn't. He just looked me in the eye, nodded once, and went back to work. That was how he said he loved me. Mom took it differently. When I told her, she sat down in the laundry room and cried. I had never seen her like that, Her shoulders shook and she covered her mouth like the sound itself would break her. I sat beside her, unsure if I should speak. I didn't. I just let her hold my hand while she cried. That night, I told Emily, my girl. We were sitting on the front porch, the sky turning orange and pink. She held my hand the whole time I spoke, but didn't say much. When I was done, she asked, "Do you have to go?" I didn't answer. There wasn't an answer. Not really. First, she stood up and went inside. When she came back, she had an envelope. Inside was a photo of us at the lake, a small rock I had given her once, and a folded note. She kissed me and said, "Open it when you get there." I didn't sleep much that week. Every conversation felt like a farewell. Friends at the diner clapped me on the shoulder a little too hard. Old teachers called me young man, like they were proud, but their smiles never reached their eyes. Even the town felt different, as if it knew I wouldn't walk those streets again for a long time, maybe ever. I started packing on the 10th day. Folded my jeans, my shirts, took down a few photos from the wall. I kept looking at the clock like time was speeding up on purpose. And through it all, the letter stayed on the nightstand. Always there, always waiting. Time is strange when it's running out. The days felt both fast and endless, like someone had pressed fast forward and pause at the same time. 30 days were now down to 10, then to 5. I found myself clinging to the smallest things, the sound of birds in the morning, the creak of the back screen door, the way the kitchen smelled after Mom baked pie. Everything seemed brighter, sharper. I noticed details I had ignored my whole life. The cracks in the pavement on Main Street, the faded blue paint on the gas station walls, the freckles on Emily's shoulders when the sunlight hit just right. I started taking long walks. Not to go anywhere, really. Just to move through the world while I still could. I visited the lake where Emily and I first kissed, the treehouse my dad built when I was 9, the park where I hit my first home run. These weren't just places anymore. They were memories, waiting for a last goodbye. People around me changed too. My friends laughed louder, maybe to hide their sadness. My mom held me longer when we hugged. Even my little brother, who usually annoyed me, sat quietly next to me in the evenings, not saying much, just being there. One afternoon, I found my dad sitting alone in the garage, holding an old photo of himself in uniform. "Didn't think I'd ever see you go through this," he said. I sat beside him, and for once, he talked. He told me about cold nights in Korea, about friends he lost, about how it never really leaves you. That night, I cried in the shower. Not from fear. Not exactly. It was something heavier. Grief, maybe. For the life I thought I'd have. For the version of me that wouldn't come back. I wrote letters that week to my mom, Dad, Emily, even to myself. I didn't know if I'd get the chance to say everything I wanted to. But I needed them to know they mattered, that they made me who I was. And when the night before came, I sat on my porch and just listened to the wind, to the trees, to the faint sound of a train in the distance. I wanted to memorize it all, because tomorrow I would no longer belong to this quiet world.